Okay, the Great Glen tasting. And tonight you are tasting from Boulia, which is, you can see it behind me there anyway. Huge area. It takes best part of 4 hours to drive from the top to the bottom. And you're starting in Taranto, which is in the instep. And Giustini, really interesting company. It's sort of middle size, make about 200,000 bottles. The old man used to work as an estate manager, and with his uncle, they bought up patches of land, and they've created this vineyard area, and they've planted very, very wisely. So they started with Negro Marro, which is the most widely planted grape in the Salento, which is the southern part, but they were planting it actually in the Taranto, which is best known for Primitivo. And they do make a lot of Primitivos. They make about 4 Primitivos now. 5, I think, actually, including a sort of sweet one, which is all right. It's not bad. Anyway, the Fiano's a white grape. It's a white grape that, alongside Greco, Fiano, Falanghina, they're the best known of the Campanian / southern white grapes. And Fiano is probably the most aromatic of those. So Trebbiano, well, the Greco is a little bit harder, more saline, more mineral. Fiano is a bit more aromatic, not as aromatic as a Muscat, hasn't got the grassy flavours of a Sauvignon, so it sort of sits somewhere in the middle, and it was all but extinct actually till the 17s. And Mastro Baradino, a producer of very, very famous producer actually, and he's in bed with the Italian government, set up the vineyard that's in Pompeii, which is planted the same way that it would have been planted in Pompeian times. It's a really fascinating experiment. Anyway, so he did enormous work to bring back Fiano, and now it's taking its place as one of the great grapes in Italy. And what it does do is it performs very well in hot temperatures. It's very happy in its homeland, which is Avellino, where it's planted on a high altitude volcanic rock. Here it's planted on sandy limestones at almost 0 altitude, but the freshness of the winds just seems to work very well. It makes great wine. It works very, very well. So Avolia just means I want to drink it. So wine for this is right at its peak. So we've got a little bit of the 2021 left, and it's lovely. Just bang it out. It's fresh as you like. It's beautiful wine. No wood, just stainless steel. Fermented with introduced yeasts. It's just classic conventional winemaking made by a decent family-owned business. Then we go to Camillo Montori. Camillo's now in his 80s. He's in the Abruzzo, in the northern part. And the northern part, the Montepulciano up there, which is the grape, is known as Terame. So it's got its very own DOCG. It's regarded as one of the best quality areas. And Controguerra, which is the village he's close to, does actually have its own DOCG as well, but for the more mixed up styles. And Camillo's top range has always been the Fontecupa, then he's always had the Linea Classico, which we don't really buy anymore. We just stick to the top stuff, the Fontecupa. And then he does some experimental stuff, which I haven't bought that for over a decade, and that's sort of mixtures of Cabernet with Montepulciano and Chardonnay with Trebbiano. They're good wines, but I just don't get very excited by them. So this one, though, is Pecorino, which, when we first started importing from them, would have been called Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. It would have gone into the blend. So the blend of Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, Trebbiano is legally allowed to use Passarina, Pecorino, Trebbiano, Toscana, Trebbiano Abruzzese. Lots of different varieties all have the same title, Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. But now, of course, this is separated and broken up, so Pecorino is regarded as one of the best. I see it as kind of the Chardonnay of Italy. In some ways, the tastes aren't the same, but it performs in a similar way. So this wine's made with some barrique fermentation, which just gives it some texture and some weight, but it doesn't overbake it. So it's not all barrique fermented, I think about half of it is. And then all of the aging is in stainless steel. This means the wine can be released onto the market quicker. It gives a lovely freshness to the wine. So it's a really good wine. And the Abruzzo, this part, they're on the border with the Marche. And on the other side in the Marche, often the the Pecorino from there is regarded as better. There's actually a DOCG, which is the highest quality rating, for a town called Ofida for their Pecorino, which is only half an hour from here. But they're just near the coast. They're right on the border of the Abruzzo with the Marche. Great wine. For me, it's one of it's an unsung hero, this Pecorino. Montori have nailed it. It's beautiful wine. Then we go to the red wines. Susumaniello. Not an easy one to pronounce. That's the grape type. Susumaniello. In Puglia, as I said before, Negro Amaro, number 1, most planted. Then Primitivo. Then Nero di Troia up in the north. It sort of goes from north to south. Most planted. Actually, there's a lot of Nero di Troia, but most of it's undrinkable. Anyway, and then Susumaniello's down a bit. And this gives the freshest, easiest, cleanest of styles. It's got white grapes in its family tree. It's got a real freshness. And this is made stainless steel. It's just classic conventional winemaking, and you could put this in the fridge and drink it. You could just glug it down. It's not a heavy wine, but it's got plenty of fruit, so it's got a lovely richness to it. It's really good wine. So I hope you enjoy it. Susumaniello. For me, it could be one of our up-and-coming stars. I think it's great. The next one you are tasting is the Panada. Now, this is Cantina Frentana. We're doing 2 wines from them. And it's a cantina which is in the southern part of the Abruzzo. So Montori is one of the most northerly of all the Abruzzo companies. And this one, Cantina Frentana, is one of the most southerly. They're below Chieti. And when they're a cantina, so they're a group of members. And originally there were 100. I think there are 100 members now. I think 50 set it up in the 50s, something like that. And most people, when they set up their cooperatives, just built a shed, filled up the concrete tanks, and made their wine there. So the owners of the vineyards would set up a processing plant together, which would make their wines and sell their wines. In Chieti, they were quite interesting. They built this tower, which has got a gravity-fed system, and they make extraordinary wines. But their bulk wine, they're not made in the tower anymore. Very few are. They still use it for aging. But that's the Torre Veneria, which I'll tell you a bit more about, the last wine, later. In the basement of there was where the Panada is aged, and it's aged in big, large oak barrels. This is really trad Montepulciano. It's made in the same sort of way that Camillo Montori makes his. The trend is to put your Montepulciano into barrique, which works really well. I love this style. You get more complexity, you get more dark, secondary flavours come through. It's not as sweet as the wines you get which are made in barrique. I like buying the barrique ones, don't get me wrong. But these Botte Grande, they just give that. There's something elemental about them. Great wine. So for me, the Panada is one of the unsung heroes in our whole selection, actually. Genuinely, I like taking bottles of Panada home. It's a superb wine. It's a great price. Then we go to Plantamura, family-owned business, only make 50,000 bottles. They're really closer to Basilicata than Salento. Well, they are. And then in mentality, it's not typical Primitivo. So further south, you go into Manduria, Primitivo di Manduria. This is in Gioia di Colli, Primitivo Gioia di Colli. Gioia di Colli is a town. It's one of the highest altitude vineyards in all of Puglia. They're about 350 meters. So they're about the same altitude as a lot of Barolo. You get a fresh wind blowing through. The climate actually in Puglia has been relatively cool. So the 22s, there's a beautiful balance and intensity to these, and the 21s actually. They were really good vintages. So it's a couple, work with their 2 daughters, and this is San Pietro, number 2, so they're 10 to 20-year-old vines. Organic farming, all stainless steel, wild yeast fermentation. For me, these are some of the greatest Primitivas you can buy. They're not trying to be huge sweet monsters. They're just beautiful wine, and that's what I love. And then the last wine, the sweetie, it's the Torre Veneria from the Cantina at Frentana. So it's named after the tower. that I was talking about earlier. It's made by the Cantina, so it's made by Cantina Fontana, and dried Muscat grapes. They've always had a small amount of Muscat. The co-op members have a small quantity of Muscat grapes, and they've just done it so well. It's just easy, dried Muscat. It's not easy, that's why they don't make very much, why it's expensive. But the grapes are dried, pressed, fermented and aged in barrique, so small oak barrels. So you've got that lush, rich, muscatty flavour. Really good wine, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a great one for Christmas pudding and things. In fact, you know, two wines from here, I'd go for the Panada and the Torre Venaria. I think they're fantastic value, super special wine, and the Pecorino. You know, that have a southern Christmas. It'll be great. Okay, sorry to miss you all. Hope you have fun. Bye.